Hello and welcome to the Propelling Business Excellence Podcast. I'm your host, Vibha Chawla, and today I'm very excited to see that we have Arijit Chatterjee joined from Capgemini. He's the head of pre-sales and solutions in the life sciences. So thank you very much, Arijit, for joining us. I will not take much of your time, but would you kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do in Capgemini?
Sure, Viva, and thank you for having me. And I started somewhere around a quarter of a century ago, coming in from India. Me and my wife, having situated here in Princeton, New Jersey area, started working for a at that point in time about 100 odd people in a limbs vendor called Lab Vantage, and that's how I started my career. And then I happened to work for Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb, two of the large pharmaceuticals in the area, for about 2 decades. And then I switched my career over to the IT services side of business. And after having worked with TCS a little bit and few others, I'm now with Capgemini, and I manage the pre-sales and solutions for the go-to-market segment of Capgemini Life Sciences. Um, Happy to be here, Viva. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I know I have known you for quite a long time too, so it's a great pleasure knowing that you have served so many biotech, pharma, and consulting for so many of them. So, Arijit, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what does Capgemini Life Sciences do, and how are you serving biotech and pharma and med devices company, more about how is your company different than others. I know you were mentioning some of the unique value propositions too. I know I asked you multiple questions, but you can summarize and answer those.
Sure, sure. So I gotta be a little, uh, uh, be a philosopher here, Viva. As I always like to believe that the COVID pandemic has turned the world over at its head. We have learned to take life seriously. So, gone are those days when a technocrat or a computer software engineer would work in the area of developing software or implementing software, even working for a pharma company. They would not even know what they are doing, or what lives they are touching, if they are at all able to actually save a life. The COVID pandemic has done one thing that each and every one of them, uh, whether he is a tester or a solution developer or a software developer or a project manager or a business analyst, almost every household was hit by the COVID pandemic. So they have either lost someone in their family or pretty much their own, or a friend. So somewhere deep inside, they have come to realize that what the value of life is and what the business of life sciences is. So when I wake up every morning, the first thing I tell to myself is I come to work with the business of saving lives. Even if I actually build a piece of code, deploy it in a server, my first customer, which logs into that software and probably creates a record in a laboratory experiment, or at the end of the day, once that first drug is actually administered to a clinical patient in a clinical trial site with a jab, arm jab, the data that is captured is so valuable to be able to get that product out in the market and finally saving lives. I have a contribution to that. So that's the value that I see, that's the motivation, and that's what actually propels me. every day. And that actually, uh, that's the engine oil I get within me to be able to wake up every day and work in this industry. So going back to what we do in Capgemini, very much like our competitors, we are a large IT services firm, 350 plus thousand people across the globe,
Wow.
24 billion dollars in revenue. We are huge.
Mhm.
So just the life sciences business is as big as 60,000 people. So we we bring value to our customers, who in turn build make drugs. They save patients lives, they save lives. Our unique value proposition is the behavioral aspect of building the drugs, how we essentially bring in a mix of practitioners, engineers, and people who understand the business. They speak the language of the bench. They talk the language of a shop floor. They can be shoulder to shoulder to a technician who is working in a manufacturing plant. That's the value Capgemini brings. And I have probably told you once, Viva, the Capgemini Engineering did an acquisition in 2018, 2019 timeframe. We acquired a company called Altran out of
Mhm.
France,
Yes.
which has made us the biggest engineering IT services organization in the world. And the
Mhm.
value that Altran brings by its organic engagements that it already has in other industries, whether it is aerospace, oil and gas, CPD, automotive. Altran was always very big. That business, that expertise got percolated in the business of Capgemini. And that's how Capgemini Engineering was formed. So we have cutting edge engineers, the practitioners who are probably the best in the world in terms of product design, product development, and product maturity. Uh, and they bring in product maturity, and that blends very well into life sciences, whether it is medtech or pharma.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing. And I think you also explained, I mean, yeah, thank you for this inspirational talk. I loved how you're talking to your coders, developers, that they are touching human life. I think it's very critical. Like you mentioned, with COVID has changed quite a lot. And I mean, your organization is so big, like with the $4 billion revenue with life sciences, you're impacting many people, right? Many people with your $60,000, sorry, 60,000 employee strength. So that's very amazing. I think one thing you mentioned, Arjit, is that engineering. How is this engineering going to shape the future of the life sciences industry? You mentioned about 1 to 3 years plan for your department, and how is this engineering going to help in shaping that future?
great. I'm like, so there are two aspects to it. Whenever you apply digital to business,
Yeah.
and whether it is life sciences business or not, there is a hygiene part of it, that how quickly you can derive operational efficiency to your business. How can you cut cost, decrease the technical debt that our customers have, the hygiene stuff. I'm like, how quickly you can solve problems that an end user faces. That's one side. And
Mm-hmm.
the other side is, for our customers, how can we bring innovation for them to be able to beat their own competition in their own markets?
Mm-hmm.
How quickly can they bring their drugs ahead of their competition? So these two are completely two different areas,
Right.
and
Right.
we address both ends. How we do that is at the end, at the left side of the business, the hygiene, where we bring in value in terms of using cutting edge technology like AI, Gen AI, Chat GPT, you name it. We build up for our customers in support, managed services. We bring in several different tools that are uh, that can accelerate the process of supporting their business, to keep the lights on and making sure that you can predict and prepare them for failures. You do things right first time. So those kind of technologies are dime a dozen that we have in our repertoire, and we implement them as a part of hygiene for our customers when a services is needed in the services side. When it comes to innovation on the right hand side of the spectrum, to how to bring their products faster to the
Mm-hmm.
market, how the products are much better, how we increase their wallet share, that's where we bring in the intelligence of being the largest engineering player in the industry, being Altran, having been blended inside the Capgemini organization. We bring a variety of technologies. We bring a variety of business paradigm, the values that comes out of different types of solutions we provide to other types of businesses. So, for example, we bring a solution for Boeing or Airbus in aeronautics. We see there is an applicability of that solution in pharma. We do that. we we work with a cigarette manufacturer like Philip Morris International. We work in their manufacturing lines, and we bring about yield improvements. We bring about how their raw material supplies can be actually accelerated. We found that that solution worked great in that industry. We actually repurpose that solution into life sciences. So that's
That's a great idea because all the good decisions or great decisions require that diversity, right? So you're bringing diverse opinions and viewpoints from the other
other
industries and
businesses.
applying it to here. So you're saying that you're the largest engineering firm that's supporting the life sciences in IT, correct?
That is right. And we have a
That's
huge
that's amazing.
presence in the area of medtech. Well, I don't want to name, of course,
Yeah.
because of confidential reason. I cannot
Um,
name our customers, but you name the largest of med device customers of ours, which are the largest med device companies in the world. We design, develop their products. We mature their products in their maturity curves. We significantly increase their wallet share when it comes to actually provisioning their products out to their customer base. So, and we support them. We support their products once they are out in the market, after sales support in terms of commercializing. So we support our med device customers. Of course, I spoke about pharma, which is close to my heart. We have very large customers in the pharma space, whether it is an established pharmaceutical or a clinical stage biotech. We work with everybody.
so you go end to end. It's not just drug discovery or drug development, but for the all phases of drugs, correct?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm like one of the article I'm sure you're going to ask me about, which is core to my heart, is the lab of the future, or the next gen lab article that I recently wrote. I'm sure you will ask me about that article. Yes, we like, for example, we work with the discovery research groups in a pharma organization, which is in computational research. They are into the areas of more biostatistics. They are into area of reaction modeling, even molecular diagnostics, and uh, designing the proteins, how better you can actually see how the proteins will bind the target proteins. And they are looking at all sorts of different models. They're applying AI, ML, Gen AI solutions into their modeling. We work with them. At the same time, we work with the quality analytical people, the people who are into the folks who are supporting a clinical or a manufacturing organization in terms of doing lot testing for the production lots, whether it is a clinical product or a manufacturing product, which I'm sure you are yourself familiar about. That the space you come from in your
Sure, yes.
past life.
Yeah.
So we provide solutions to them. And finally, in manufacturing, all the way to the right side of the spectrum, where we take have deep expertise in implementing MES systems and Delta V type of systems in the area of serialization, labeling, artwork management, all the way to the commercialization aspect of pharma.
Wow. That's a lot of depth here. And the drug commercialization, etc. Also, do you go into that as well? So all
We
aspects
do.
of drugs. Okay.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah.
Okay. That's very yeah, that's amazing. So you're taking care of all technology aspects for the life sciences and bringing in engineering into the picture. So do you want to tell us a little bit? I know we have a little bit time left here, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about the article? I know you had very interesting point which you haven't mentioned in the podcast about engineering. How is that? Why is that important now?
Yeah, I'm like, look, the article was about mostly about the next gen labs, how to prepare for the laboratories, which will be next gen laboratories.
Mm-hmm.
Today, a huge deal of bottleneck is probably a harsh term that I don't want to actually put in a lot of load in lab scientists, that they are at the critical path. If a trial fails, or if there is a 483, or if the drug is not getting out the door faster, it's all because of the because of the lab scientist. It's never like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? The quality process of safety analysis of both raw material as well as finished product takes a long, long time, and that's where labs actually uh, they uh, they the labs have a big play in getting the lots, whether they are production lots or quality lots. They have to be tested in the labs fast, and the results need to be captured also with a first, right first time, of course.
Yeah.
And then finally those results need to be tabulated in such a way that the regulatory authors can actually create the CMC documents for
Right.
IND-BLA submissions.
Mm-hmm.
So labs play a pivotal role in in a drug that is either getting ready for clinical trials or for manufacturing,
Mm-hmm.
or manufactured finished goods. So today, because of the variety of instrumentation, variety of raw material supplies, the types of resources that the labs use, the types of experimentation that they have to go through, the tests that they run, the methods that they write, they are so siloed, considering the fact that every lab needs to operate in its own way, and it requires its own uh, uh, it probably decides to do a analysis or a bunch of analysis and assays which is meant for a particular therapeutic area, and they decide that this is my project plan going to be for the next 6 months, and according to that, the budget is decided, and they buy those equipments, they hire those scientists and chemists in their labs, and that's how they operate, right? Where the challenge becomes is the data that gets acquired in these labs, they are non-standardized. These data captured in one lab for an experiment is completely different in its shape and form in the data that is captured in lab B, which is for the same type of an experiment, and probably actually gotten they got acquired for the similar experiment there, or
Right.
instrument there.
Yes.
So there is absolutely no way that the two data can be correlated and insights can be derived from them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to work in silos. So the data standardization is a huge aspect
Okay.
in in the labs. So my article was about how can we solve that problem? How are the consortiums managing to create data standardized data models,
Mm-hmm.
very much like clinical SDTM type of standards. Labs also are coming up with their own standards. And I also talked about a variety of other issues that a lab is currently facing. They're facing challenges in terms of raw material supply. They're facing challenges in terms of employee health and security.
Uh-huh.
They're facing challenges on to how to maintain sustainability in the labs in terms of carbon emission, the
Right.
type of instrumentation they're getting.
Right.
So the article was all about what are the challenges that a traditional pharma lab is facing today and how can we mitigate those challenges for a future ready next gen lab.
Okay. So I think we'll put the article to the YouTube link here, and I know we only have 3 minutes left here, Arjit, and we have some more questions here. So basically, I'm going to ask here, what are the 1 to 3 years plan for your department, and what obstacles do you see with that, and how do you plan to address those? I know it's three combined in one, but very curious to know about that.
Very, very good question, and it's a tough one. Look, um, the business is really running at a fast pace. There's no doubt of it. I mean, like, there is a generics is going in a race to the bottom. The generic manufacturers are struggling to keep their price down, and the generics, we do want to work with the generics because that's going to be a growing market. But because of that, that business is more, there is more cost struggle. We do see a challenge there in terms of pricing our services also low in order to penetrate in the generics market.
Hmm.
Besides that, I would say that we want to go to the generics market. That's my number one answer to your question,
Okay.
which we have not done it.
Okay.
And I definitely want to tell even my competitors to see how we can formulate integrated solutions, IT solutions for the generic market in pharma. The other other things that I see where we have to put our bets on is definitely Gen AI and large language models using ChatGPT and OpenAI and both areas. And that's where our bets are going to be. And we have, within the leadership in Capgemini Engineering, we have decided to put our money in there, where we will be able to continuously poke our customers in uh, deriving and understanding value projects in both research side of business, which is discovery research,
Mm-hmm.
as well as with manufacturing, where we can increase yield of production, where we can reduce the number of errors in a regulatory authoring and regulatory document preparation, regulatory document submission. How can we bring Gen AI based solutions in terms of clinical study report generations in clinical trials
Mm-hmm.
and things like that of the nature? So Gen AI is definitely my second best area in the pharma world. The third is, I would say, is to look into the business of combined therapeutics. The the drug modalities are changing. There is an advent of CGT drugs, which is cell and gene therapy.
Mm-hmm.
There's an advent of personal medicines. There is an advent of digital therapeutics,
Yeah.
where antibodies are going to become drugs.
Right.
So these are the new drug modalities that a lot of our customers are taking a look at. So our interest is to actually work with those customers who are coming away from traditional small molecule or biologics drugs and getting into these kind of drugs, which will require more digital infusion, more AI infusion, more analytics, more digital twin kind of concepts in their manufacturing process. This is the third area we want to put our money on as well. So that there are a few others, but if you asked me about three top, I mean, these are the three top bets that I would put my money on.
A lot about your department here at Capgemini. Could you offer us some glimpse into what does your future 1 to 3 year plan looks like? What's your goal for the department? What do you envision for the next chapter of this journey?
So the next chapter is always going to the big and foremost imperative for us to be able to board the Gen AI train.
Mm-hmm.
The pharma, even though it was life sciences in particular, was lagging in the space for Gen AI as compared to the other industries, I would say. But it is fast catching up, um, where do see considerable use of generative AI models, large language models, in the area of how drugs are discovered, molecules are designed,
Mm-hmm.
and safety and efficacy is determined based on some model data that is available from previous submissions and real world evidence and real world data, as we call it in the language of epidemiology and outcomes research.
Yeah.
So that is pivotal, that is of supreme importance to us, that we would want to. And also Gen AI is being used in the area of manufacturing, where considerably we are seeing digital twins being used
Mm-hmm.
for manufacturing operations. I always say this to any conference that I go to, that there is always a opportunity for AI, especially for pharma. But the key is to be able to identify what is trusted and what is non-trusted, what is ethical and what is non-ethical, all within the realms of compliance and regulations, because this is a highly regulated industry.
Right.
So two things come out of that, what I just said. My future endeavor would be, as a part of our organization, to grow as a unit where there will be AI literate entrepreneur, AI literate workforce. There is uh, no way in another year, if you do not have the basics, if you do not know the basics of AI, if you have not gotten used to, and if you have not read, and if you have not learned and at least gotten any some basic level certification on an AI platform, you are
Mm-hmm.
losing out. So you definitely have to. I'm like, that's a mandate that my leadership actually tells me to go on. And I also tell it to my organization that our workforce will have to be trained in Gen AI practices. And the second part that comes out of that is for us to be able to actually understand the nuances and the labyrinth of regulations, the regulatory quality assurance and quality control, based on understanding what is that a FDA versus European Agency, what are their demands, what do they want to achieve, what are their guardrails, and what are their standard operating procedures that we need to adhere to. That also comes very, very naturally as a part of something that our workforce need to get trained on, need to be able to very well be versed on the overall life cycle of a life sciences product, whether it is med device or a pharma, right? So these two, you had asked me about three. Maybe the third thing that I would definitely want to be looking at is laboratories which as actually functions in the back end of any product release, or for that matter quality control, analytical control, and analytical sciences, where you basically learn the wet lab tests.
Hmm.
There are reasons to be cognizant about the environment,
Right.
sustainability, and the kind of carbon emission that comes out in terms of operating those equipments in a manufacturing plant, the kind of the kind of uh, biological or chemical waste that we release, uh, how we handle the sustainability aspects for labs. I'm like how we handle reagents, the glass consumables. You know
Right.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely.
plastic.
Yep.
uh, we are all in that cusp of that generation where we need to be very, very responsible
Hmm.
for what we are leaving for our next generation for the future. So sustainability will be the third. So you asked me three things I'm looking forward to: Gen AI for pharma and med devices and life sciences, getting educated on Gen AI. Number two, getting educated on best practices around regulatory quality, compliance, regulations across the globe, different agencies. Learn that, understand that, create a good point of view. And third, being sustainability.
Yeah, I wonder how FDA is reacting to this Gen AI, right? Are they being receptive? Are there any requirements now saying that, okay, you can use Gen AI in these cases or not? I know
They
there are
are.
a lot of
They are. As a
documentation
matter
and
of fact, in June, I attended an FDA conference for generic drugs,
mhm.
where FDA is very, very open to writing new guidelines for AI modeling across the way that the ANDA releases will be done. That's called
Okay.
ANDA.
Yeah, yeah,
If
that's
you know what
amazing.
ANDA is,
Yes, yes. Yeah,
ANDA,
of
how
course.
ANDA releases. So FDA is 100% working with its own. Uh, I forgot the name of the committee that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's the CEDAR equivalent of
Yeah,
ANDA.
yeah.
I forgot the name. They use a name, GUDA or GUDA. I forgot. I'm like, don't quote me. So FDA is bringing in practitioners in that group uh, who understands the fact that uh, because they're starting from bottom up. So they're starting with generic drugs, considering that most of the generic manufacturers, they struggle with the ANDA submissions because of the fact that, as you know, generic drug business is a race to the bottom. Whoever can price it the
Oh, yeah.
lowest, whoever can price it the
It's
lowest,
always a
they will
challenge.
just. It's the Walmart economy. Sorry,
Yes.
excuse me for saying that.
No,
Right,
absolutely.
right. So the generic drug manufacturers are struggling to shorten the time frame of ANDA submissions and engage in with the different facets of automation, AI, and all that stuff in the way they can possibly do. So, to that point, FDA is very, very receptive, and FDA wants to actually work with the manufacturers, and they are encouraging them to actually use AI in a part and in the process of those ANDA submissions.
Okay. That's great to know. I know the pharma industry has been a little bit slower compared to others, but that's great to know that they have been receptive.
Mhm.
In terms of like you are an IT company supporting biotech, pharma, med devices, So I'm excited to know. I worked for the IT consulting and Capgemini many years ago. Curious to know, are there any, you mentioned about growth of the people bringing in AI. I mean, you have some sales related target as to how much are you trying to grow your department?
Look, there is no uh, the ecosystem is such that the sales, otherwise you won't be able to survive, either you are up or out.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you will have to take on a challenge which is bigger than the last year's challenge. You have to
Right.
do that. So our sales team will have to show significant growth since the last year, and that's how the budgets are done in the
Right.
beginning of the year, mostly in the third quarter of every year, which essentially writes the budget for the next fiscal. Yes, we do have a sales target. Me, as a leader of the pre-sales team, I get percolated the sales target that my sales team has.
Mm-hmm.
I do have indirect responsibility to achieve that sales
Yes.
target, considering the fact that my team writes the proposals, develop the solutions,
Mm-hmm.
estimates the work that needs to happen. My team does not get into the revenue side of business, considering my team does not execute the projects. They
Right.
don't go into delivery
Right.
because there is delivery. But my team is very, very focused with the sales team, and we tag along with the sales team in order for us to be able to support the sales group, to be able to actually turn those opportunities into real bids, and then basically but convert those bids into orders, right? So we are my team is you asked me whether I have sales target. I do not as such have sales target, but I have indirect target for everything that the sales team does, considering for me to be able to make them successful and having them achieve the target. So if they achieve the target, I achieve the target.
Yeah.
If
So
that answers your question.
yeah, 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 absolutely. I think I'm curious. There is a lot of opportunities right here. Gen AI, there is FDA, there is generic drug. We talked about the sustainability. There are a lot of opportunities. I'm curious to know how this innovation, how you're planning to leverage that innovation, and what percent is Capgemini trying to grow this life sciences department. I heard that from other IT companies as well that are supporting life sciences.
Great
They have
question.
certain, yeah. Is it like
Great question.
20%, 50%?
Capgemini has declared in the 2025 fiscal, Capgemini is going to put in, starting 2025 fiscal, Capgemini is going to put in 2 billion US dollars on Gen AI
Oh, wow.
investments.
Oh, wow.
So that's a huge investment as a part of the group. The group
Yeah.
has actually declared that. It has been shared across with our stakeholders, shareholders, with our partners in the ecosystem, with the entire group of analysts, whether it is Gartner or Forrester or IDC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's in itself is a huge step. If I answer you, I'm like we have committed towards a $2 billion investment in Gen AI. Number one. Number two, um, what does that do? That helps us to be able to create teams focused on AI, Gen AI, and work with the value players in the ecosystem, such as hyperscalers like AWS, Microsoft, NVIDIA. And we are partners with all of these names.
Mm-hmm.
We work with them, they and then we take them to domains. They are value players not in domains, right? They
Right.
create their platforms. Like NVIDIA, I personally am involved. NVIDIA has a BioNemo platform and Mon AI platform for drug discovery.
Right.
And they did create that with an intent that they will actually go to a pharma or a biotech
Right.
customer.
Mm-hmm.
They need people like Capgemini, or for that matter, some of our competitors also, who have a good leeway and good doorway that we know of to a
Mm-hmm.
customer. And we will
Yeah.
take NVIDIA to a pharma customer and then connect with them, look at the opportunities. Say, for example, we will take NVIDIA to a customer of ours who are into a completely new therapeutic area, and they have set up an AI function where they would like to actually see some of the new POCs developed in Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
So we will take Gen AI, we will take NVIDIA to them. We will design a POC project, whether it is for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, or 3 months, or whatever. Right? I'm like 6 months. We do that. We come out of it with a complete outcome-driven approach, and finally, once the outcomes are around, I'm like, we will consider scaling up that across the board of all of the discovery life sciences group within that client organization. I think and that sort of a project will not be solitary. That will be probably a multitude of such projects, such POC projects that we will embark into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it seems complex and pretty big as well. Especially, I believe you mentioned it's a huge investment, right? $2 billion into Gen AI. So that's great to know. What obstacles do you anticipate encountering, as you're trying to meet your goals and Gen AI has decided to invest that money? I'm assuming or thinking that they are expecting some return out of it, right?
Capgemini has decided to invest.
What's the
Yeah,
what's the return on investment type thing?
yeah,
Is there a
yeah.
goal for that? And what challenges do you think you will face?
So the challenges is ecosystem driven, right? I'm like, we all know that we are running through a phase of soft economy, very soft economy. People are almost hoarding their cash for some good reasons, right? There is some uncertainty in the market, even though the general sentiment on the market is high. Maybe all that stuff is doing well, but for some reason we are going through a phase of soft economy where there is no stretch of imagination, our customers are a little bit, for a lack of a better term, they are skeptic in taking on large enterprise projects, which are like $10 million a year or $20 million a year. Those are hard to come by. They are, uh, of course, looking at opportunities where the in-flight projects, whether they are keep the lights on type of run projects in IT,
Mm-hmm.
or build projects, the stuff that they have taken on, they want to ensure that how much of automation, AI, and and significant new technology, whether it is digital, uh, any aspects of digital, can be infused to those projects so that they can get the maximum returns on their investment on those projects. As you asked me, how is Capgemini going to get the return on investment on that $2 billion in Gen AI? So I do see this as a challenge because the consumer is skeptic on getting into large programs which are more than 6 months and a year. Large programs are very difficult to come by. So this actually, even though it's a challenge, this poses a nice opportunity for us, considering that it opens the door for smaller POC projects in AI.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to see those, the right individuals, right stakeholders, you're able to convince him or her on your capabilities. There is no dearth of smaller POCs that may actually accumulate and help that overall program that they are wishing to achieve,
Right.
which is what an opportunity that I see when that is a challenge. That's one challenge, and that's one opportunity there. The other challenges that I do see in the area of life sciences is definitely uh, there is a there is a strong uh, motivation to shorten the clinical trials time from 6 to 7 years that it currently takes to to shortening that into like in a 18 to 2 years time frame, right? That will do two things, of course. um, the players like pharma companies, they'll be able to beat out the competition, and they'll be able to significantly get a product to market faster. The second thing is, on a philosophical end, it is going to do a huge benefit for the patients who have unmet needs, who are probably suffering today.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have the medication jabbed in, or they do not have that piece, that bottle, that vial by their bedside. They do not, even though they have this expectation that something is coming up, but they don't really see the medication out there. So that's a challenge, huge challenge, to be able to get the product to market faster. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there are again, AI plays a big role there. AI essentially will allow faster approval, FDA approval, that can shorten the time. AI will allow, and digital will allow uh, a better managing of data for clinical trials, faster recruitment process for nurses, doctors, patients. AI and digital will allow ensuring that the clinical trials are completed within the time that it was budgeted and actually planned for, because most of the trials actually overrun the project timelines,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yes.
how it becomes so big
Yep.
and so long. So all that said, I'm like, these are the challenges I do see. I'm like, I see regulations. I see stringent regulations being a it's a bottleneck for products to come in market faster. I see all of that. So while these are challenges, as I said, I do see opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a complex problem, but it seems like you're strategizing that to make sure you can address that, and also, being part of the business, get your return on investment. So there was great information. Arijit, I have one last question: is what advice would you offer to the aspiring business leaders who can follow your path, and they're facing challenges in their career? Could you provide some advice here?
Stay put, don't get disheartened. And if somebody like me could have made it without having to wear the lab coat, the lab glasses, without a PhD degree in biochemistry or molecular biology, as most of my friends do,
Yes.
if I can still go and talk to a customer of mine, and I can talk the language that he or she wants me to talk to, then even you can do it. So, what that requires us to do is to be able to learn what's happening in the industry, be up to date with with all the needle movement in the area of pharmaceuticals, biotech, be at the tip of the tip. be, I would advise every aspiring, not just a associate or a aspiring employee, but also entrepreneurs who would like to get into a business of life sciences, to be able to read what's happening in the industry, not necessarily from the science, from from the side of science, but also from the side of business. There is a huge influx of private equity investors,
Mm-hmm.
angel investors into the area of life sciences. What are their interests on? Why are they putting money in a particular sector, say neurosciences or Alzheimer's, as opposed to they're putting money in hepatitis or cardiovascular or that? What is the basic reason? Why is still not enough money put in rare diseases? Where are the rare diseases concentrated? If we get into that sort of journals, that sort of articles, that sort of uh, publications that are coming out, and attend seminars and workshops, keep our eyes and ears open, we would be able to understand that there are opportunities galore. There are not necessarily that the US and the North America is the only player. Europe and Asia Pacific is also, and in the emerging economy is also catching up big time.
Mm-hmm.
We would understand that, well, as I said, as somebody like me who is a technology guy and could talk to business, that means we are in that crossover generation where the the business and the technology, the lines are getting blurred. We understand there is a strong emphasis and need for the business user to be able to understand the technology and vice versa. So I
Right.
think that's where that's what I would advise the aspirants to look into.
Yeah, that's a great advice because I wasn't even thinking about that, right? Why are investors spending their money on different types of diseases? So that's a great advice. So thank you very much, Arjit. Thank you for being on our podcast. We really learned quite a lot about Capgemini and how you're helping, life sciences industries and the patients. Really appreciate your time today. To my viewers, we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Arjit.
Thank you, Viva, for having me. Thanks.